Okay, so yeah, so Marisa has kind of given that intro of everything that we're going to be covering today. Now, within the GA4 properties, we're going to be using a couple of properties. One of them is an internal dummy account that we house, a bit of a sandbox for our internal team. And the other one we're going to be using is the Google Merchandise Shop. So this is Google's analytics for their merchandise shop, essentially. So our data in here is real. The reason we use that is because there's a lot of data in there, so we can you know, show some pretty useful interactions and some pretty useful reports in there. You can also access this merchant shop in your analytics. If you just search demo in the search box of your account, it should pop up and you can take a look through and customize reports within there and see what other people have done as well. There are limitations because obviously it's Google's live website, but you can use a lot of the insights that are in there. So before we get into the sort of differences between the two platforms and reporting and things, just want to cover up a few key areas around the actual property itself. So GA4 from a attribution point of view, so how we can interpret the data within GA4. So the model that GA4 uses is a cross-channel data-driven model. So this basically is Google using machine learning to attribute data to the correct places, give credit to the right channels that have all played a part in your user's journey, what's made them click through, what's made them convert. So it uses this machine learning model to correctly place data where it should be within your account. Now it's different to GA3 or Universal, which was predominantly a last click model and didn't have this data driven or you know, unless you have specific integrations, didn't have cross-channel capabilities really. So it's much more flexible and generally much more accurate when it comes to from a user journey point of view. The other thing that GA4 does as well is automatically collect certain events. Coincidentally, there are 43 events that it automatically collects. And these are all events that you'd be used to seeing, but there are a lot of others in there that you probably won't see from your website. They're very user-centric, so they're more event and the parameters that go with that event based rather than focusing on sessions and page views like Universal does. So just a bit of a caveat to how to interpret those events and where the data comes from. So we're going to get into the platform and just give you an overview of the basic dashboards, the navigation, and a little bit around some other hidden features that are in this current platform. So we're going to stick on the Google Merch Shop for this part of it. So to begin with, we've obviously got our homepage. So this is where you'll land when you come to any property, and it's very similar to the Google Analytics, the GA3 homepage, in that you have these cards which show you your current reporting data that's within all of your current detailed reports within analytics. So these can be adjusted, you know, they're interactive. You can click through to any report from each tile if you need to. You have a recently accessed carousel where you can look through pages that you recently accessed. And then your cards you can adjust within the dashboard. So each one of these has a drop down and you can adjust these to whichever, you know, type of data that you want to look at essentially. So you can play around with these, and these dashboards, this is a standard home dashboard that you have, that every account has the same dashboard across all properties. To customize these, we get into the more detailed reports further down, but this is a snapshot essentially of your entire site in one place. Then going back through the nav, we'll just look at the reporting section. So we won't drill down into all of these reports just yet. We'll do that a little bit later on, but we'll just give you an overview of these. So you've got your reporting snapshot, which is essentially similar to the homepage, but just covers all of your reports rather than all of the different areas within the nav. So again, these are all different cards that you can click through into certain reports, and you can edit these dimensions however you see fit to the data that you want. And then we've got within the nav underneath that, you've got your real-time reports and then your different collections. So we'll go to the real-time report first, because the real-time report, although fairly similar to Universal, is much more advanced. It's much more superior to Universal in that it allows you to gain a lot more insights into the event and parameter level of user interactions, and gives you that granularity across a larger number of dimensions. These again are all relatively interactive, so we can change dimensions where we need to. You can also drill down into certain areas, specifically the event counting area. So if you have specific events that you pass certain parameters, or you want to drill down into these, you can take a look at a certain event, so this add to cart one, and click through, and then I'll show you the parameters of that event. You can then go further into that, and you can keep drilling down into whatever data that you want to within those events. So this is where the event parameter slash against the session page view functionality comes into play. So yeah, much more advanced real-time report that you can use for debugging, but also obviously to see how your site's performing in the last 30 minutes. And beneath that, we've got what Google refers to as collections. So lifecycle and user are both collections. And then within that, we have topics, which then drill down into reports beneath, which I'm sure you're familiar with if you've had a peruse of GA4 already. So we won't drill down into those yet, because we'll cover those when we go through reporting, but we'll just move on to the next section of the nav, which is the Explore tab. So the Explore tab is relatively new. Some of these functionalities were available in Universal, but within GA4, it's much more advanced. So you can use these visualizations to try and garner insights from your data, manipulate data as you see fit, in terms of looking at, as we can see here, path exploration or user lifetime value. There are a lot of templates in here that you can just use straight away, and we'll show you how to use those when we go through a report later on. But essentially, these templates don't create reports. This is more about manipulating data to see what impact certain dimensions or metrics have on the user journey, or on that data in general, and you can share those explorations with your team, or you can download data and use it manually in your own reporting as well. So like I said, we'll drill down into that a little bit later on as well. And then we've got the advertising section within the nav as well. There's not a great deal of advertising data in here for Google, because they don't do much advertising themselves, coincidentally. But within here, you've got, again, different collections. So we've got a performance against all the channels for advertising. And then we've got your model comparison and your conversion path. So when I was talking about the cross-channel data-driven model that GA4 adopts, if we look in here, we can see the difference between that model and a last click model in terms of what Universal does. So this is a last click model currently. So if we change the attribution model to last click within this account, these are the results that it would filter down into. And the attribution data-driven model is currently the one that it's on. So by switching over to a data-driven model, we can see that organic, for example, revenue here has gone up around $2,000, and that has predominantly come from paid search, which doesn't have any attributed to it. So this data-driven model uses, like we said, machine learning to attribute effectively, and you can change these and compare different data models within here to see the best one that fits your business needs, and just shows you what impact that has across those data models. So for reference, it's always a good one to take a look at. Okay, and then we're going to go through two little bit more bits, which are insights and intelligent search. So we're going to use our dummy account for this one, which is an e-commerce account named Dog's Life, that we, like I said, use for training and a bit of a sandbox. So we're going to show the Insights tab, which is new to GA4 as well. So this can be accessed by any overview report. And you can see this Insight tabs here. So it's given us a couple of insights into performance or why there was any significant changes in data. And you can click through to these and it'll open a sidebar for insights and show you where it's grabbed that data from. And then you can click through to that report and it'll show you those insights, what's happened, and then you can take action if you need to, or report on it as you see fit. The Insights sidebar also has suggested questions that you can ask GA4. So we click on that, it'll have these predetermined questions that you can look through. So if we look at demographics, what countries do my users come from, for example, we can click through and that'll give us a short insight report on country. Again, we can look through different ones, what devices are the most used. So we can look through these insights and just answer some quick questions if you ever need to do that within GA4. And then the other way to garner these little questions is to use intelligent search. So the search bar at the top, you can ask GA4 any question, I suppose, really. So say you wanted to look at a device category report again, we can obviously search device category, and that'll give us a link to top device categories by users. So that's the insight that we've just seen. Or you can click on a report and it'll take you to the tech report as an overview, or a real-time report, which also has a device card in it. You can also ask it direct questions. So if we want to know how many users yesterday, or maybe new users yesterday, it'll give us a metric straight away. So we had 4 new users yesterday on this site. So it gives you that metric. So say if someone asks you a question, you need to know the answer straight away, whether that's revenue or conversions or sessions, whatever that is. And then it also gives you this functionality to copy it. So you can, if it was a larger number than 4, you can copy and paste that to whoever you need it to. So yeah, play around with that intelligent search as well. It's quite an easy place to get some quick answers from analytics. Okay, so the next section, we're just going to go through the main changes between Universal and GA4 in terms of functionalities and reporting, misconceptions around the changes, and then we'll go through some quick fire changes that have happened in the admin and reporting features. So with GA4, there is obviously quite a common misconception that it's a dumbed down version of Universal. And I completely understand why. When you log into a property, you're faced with, I think in total, 18 reports if you remove the real-time report, if you don't include that one. So, you know, you're probably used to working with dozens, if not hundreds of reports within Universal. And you come into GA4 and you think, where's all that data gone? But, you know, this session is about showing you that the reports that you're used to are there, but it's just about where we can find them, essentially. So there's 2 different report types within GA4. One is an overview report, which we've shown you. So the overview report, so similar to this snapshot, is just a page of cards that you can click through into any of the other reports that sit beneath it. So we've got user acquisition and traffic acquisition, user acquisition card over here, traffic acquisition, and we can click through to those. The reports that aren't overview are what's known as details reports, and they're essentially just your tables. So they show you a table format similar to Universal of that data that's within those cards and within your site. In reference to the dumbed down version of GA4 and where we can show you where you can get those reports from, there's a couple of reports under the user collection, which are the demographic details report and the tech details report. So if we take a look at the demographic details report, now these reports and all of the dimensions within those are standalone reports within Universal. So the demographic details report, for example, if you go to demographics within Universal, there are 7 different reports that you can click through. You can make a dimension change in there and you can see the data for each individual one of those reports. Same with the tech details reports. There are 10 different reports within the tech report around device category and operating system and things like that. Well, all of these are actually still within these reports. So if you come to a detailed report within demographic, hover over the default dimension that it's gone to, which is country, and all of your demographic reports are actually just sat in here. So if you wanted to look at age or gender, for example, you click on there, and then that's going to pull through your ages for this data. And you can still add secondary dimensions as well. So if you wanted to look at age by gender as well, and your secondary dimensions include all dimensions within your property. The data is not huge in this sandbox account, but ordinarily that would break down by age and gender for you. Same with the tech details report. If we go into that table, all of your tech reports are sat within this drop down. So if you want to look at operating system, for example, that'll pull through your operating system report. Again, device category, we can look at that and that'll pull through. So all the reports are there, but they're just simplified essentially. And those 2 reports on their own have put 17 reports into 2 detailed reports. So it's simpler and easier to navigate, and you've still got all the functionality that you had in Universal, but just, quicker to navigate to essentially. Okay, so looking at the main differences between GA3 and GA4 then. So these will just sort of be quick fire updates. I don't want to linger too much here, but if there are any particular functionalities you want to know more about, then either fire a question our way, we can try and pick it up afterwards, or just get in touch and we can go through it with you. So some admin updates to properties. So within GA4, within the actual UI, you can create and modify your own events, which you couldn't really do in Universal without utilizing Google Tag Manager or web development help. So within the UI, you can create your own events and modify those to how you see fit within your data stream. And we'll get into a little bit more of that a bit further on. In terms of user access, there's been a change in GA4 that you can, if you wish, you can hide cost and revenue data from a specific cohort of users or user groups. Basically, if you want to have different user access to hide certain data, you can do that in GA4 now. Reporting features, there's been a few changes. So obviously we've spoken about the advanced real-time reporting. We have what I've referenced, report collections and libraries. So we have these collections about user and life cycle, which are all housed within the reporting library, where you can create your own reports and edit this navbar and customize that navbar as much as you need to fit your business needs. GA4 also introduces acquisition reporting. So it's a relatively new concept, but user acquisition reporting is talking around the first source or medium or campaign that is observed for an acquired user, rather than the session source, medium or campaign. So there's a lot more user-centric capabilities, which we've spoken about, rather than focusing on that particular session, which all gives more data to the machine learning and the data-driven model that GA4 utilizes. There's a debug view within GA4, which we may have time to go through a bit later on, but essentially allows you to debug any new implementation on your site within the reporting interface without having to wait for data to be processed into reports or anything like that. And then we have comparisons within GA4 too. These are only available in GA4 and have taken the place of segments in Universal. So they're sort of a scaled down version, but still offer a simple way of comparing or slicing and dicing data essentially. And we'll show those later on too. And then a few lost features. So custom dashboards have gone from Universal. Google recommends that you use Data Studio or Looker for these instead now, as they're much more powerful. Behavior reporting has disappeared, which a lot of people would have noticed. So new versus returning users, the frequency of users, session quality, bounce rate, which is a common one, which we'll cover in engagement metrics later. The flow reports have gone, but they've been replaced by the exploration in the nav, so we can look at pathing reports available in there. And then the other 2 areas that have gone are the benchmarking report and the segment library, which is obviously replaced by comparisons, as we said. So that's all the sort of main changes between GA3 and GA4. We can send all these out if you need a list of those and want to reference those as well. But there have been some more recent updates as well to GA4, so sort of in the last few months, really. So if we just look back onto Dog's Life again, we'll take a look at the landing page report, which is in the lifecycle collection. So the landing page report wasn't here when they first built GA4, but it's been a widely requested feature for obvious reasons. It did come in as a dimension about a year ago, and then the report came in sort of end of Q4 last year. So the landing page report is here to obviously here to stay, but a very insightful report to use, and one that we'll use going forward, and we'll show you how to customize too. Again, landing page report, we can add secondary dimensions within here. And any details report that you land in, wherever there's these dots beneath the dimensions, you can hover over and it will give you a quick explanation of those. What I want to show you from here is another recent update, which is how to deep dive into reports using the Explorer. So whenever you're in a detailed report, you can head up to the comparisons icon just at the top here. I'm not sure why they've hidden it in here, but if you click on edit comparisons, there'll be a little explore button at the bottom right. Why it's in there from a UI perspective doesn't make sense, but that's where it is if you need it. So if we click that explore, that's going to take us into the exploration mode for that report. Try that on Google Maps. I don't think we've got enough data in that particular report. So we'll explore the Google Maps one. And this exploration mode is what we can use. Okay. That stopped working, but okay, we'll show you how to explore anyway. So if we look at the landing page, we'll come into this path exploration report instead. So the exploration mode is, like we said earlier, a way to manipulate your data and visualize it in different ways. You can also export and share data from here. So the path exploration mode you'll be potentially familiar with from Universal, which is the behavioral flow mode. So you can come in here and look at your dimensions and your metrics. You can change this data to how you see fit. And you can create these visualizations to click through. And within this path exploration one, we can have a look how these particular users have continued throughout your site. And then once you've sort of built out the visualization that you want, you can obviously adjust these different nodes as you need to. You can export this data to put into your own reporting, or you can share it with users connected to your property as well. So the exploration mode is a good tool to essentially explore your data. And I'd urge you to sort of have a look, because it's a good way to get used to the reporting in terms of how GA4 views your data and how you should view it as you move forward. So just head back. And then the other change that I wanted to show you was when you're customizing reports. So within Universal, we obviously had an account, then you had your properties, and then you had your different views for your website. Well, there's a way to sort of replicate that, because in GA4 we obviously don't have views, we just have your property, which includes your different data streams, whether that's web or app. But you can create filters within reports to sort of replicate this. So if you come up to the little pencil icon to customize a specific report, like this landing page report, and say we wanted to look at just organic data for this particular report, we can just head down to this report filter section, pick a specific dimension that you want to filter by. So we're going to do session default channel group, and then we're going to select organic search. Apply that, and that'll update the report straight away and just show us that this is just an organic report now. It includes the filter at the top, so we know where we are. What you can then do is either save it as a current report, or you can save as a new report. So if I just save changes to this current report currently, click save, and go back. So this landing page report is now organic only. You can edit all the names and customize the nav in the library, which we'll show you a little bit later on. But that functionality to add filters can help you create the views that you used to have. So whether that's via specific areas of your site or geo-targeting, if you want to look at specific countries or anything like that, you can create these filters to sort of segment your data out as we used to within Universal. Okay, so just to think a little bit about tracking then. So we've spoken a lot about data and how GA4 interprets data and how we should interpret data, the automatically collected events, the attribution models that GA4 uses, and the events that are more user-centric, so around that event and parameter over session and page views. In terms of tracking, it's in most cases pretty much out of the box in terms of you can add your GA4 ID to site, and GA4 will start automatically collecting those events for you. You can, as we said, create your own events and conversions within GA4 within the UI, and it's quite simple to do. There are some cases where integrations need to happen. If you have specific sites or third-party integrations that you need to have, which takes a little bit more work, but anything that has been tracked within Universal is doable within GA4 essentially. So a bit on conversion events and how we sort of track those. We're just going to go through how you can create a conversion event, mainly because we need, I would like everyone to start, have that thought around valuable actions that happen on site essentially, and how easy it is to create those. So if we go to the admin panel within your property, then we're just going to go over to events, and then we're going to create an event within here. So say this could be an event for a specific contact form that's on site, and that contact form goes to a thank you page when it's successfully submitted. So if we come to create, we'll call it contact form submission. And then the parameter, if we are going to a thank you page, we can select a recommended parameter already. Within this, any parameter that you're pushing to GA4 will populate within here. So if you're sending custom parameters, they'll crop up in here as well. So you maybe sending specific IDs or any other event parameters, and they will pop up in here. So if we look at page location, and then contains, it may be thank you or something like that. Any parameters that you are sending, you can copy those to this particular event, and then we're just going to create that, and that's the event created. So super simple to create events based on, as long as your implementation is sort of simple. When we look at other event tracking, things like e-commerce tracking, that does get a little bit more advanced, but still very doable. So you can set up these events as you see fit, and they will start to populate once they start to fire within here. When they do come through, you can toggle an event as a conversion action instead, so it'll be reported on as a conversion as well as an event, and we just toggle that, and that'll start landing in your conversion reports as well. If we go to conversions beneath that, once they start firing, they'll pop up in here, or you can jump the gun a little bit and just add a new conversion event, name it whatever that event was, and making sure that it's spelled correctly and everything. And then that'll add that as a conversion event and start tracking as soon as they come through. So that's a conversion event added essentially into the UI. Simple as that. What you can also do now, which is a new feature for GA4, is change the event scope of conversions. So Universal historically always tracked events by session. So if someone came on site and submitted maybe 6 or 7 contact forms for whatever reason, Universal would count that as 1, whereas GA4 would count that as 6 or 7. So they implement a new functionality where you can change the counting method of GA4 conversion events. So you just hover over the 3 dots, change counting method, and you can change that to either once per event or once per session. Save that, and that's the counting method change. So I guess what we wanted all our clients to do is have a think about any valuable actions on site that may or may not be tracking correctly or not tracking at all within your GA4 properties. And obviously, if possible, have a go at setting up those events yourself so we are tracking those, or if you need support with those, then reach out and we can support with that. We just want to make sure that everybody's properties are counting the right conversion events for your business goals. And then the other area that we can set up events as well is via audiences. So within audiences, you can, similar to Universal, create audiences based on certain actions or certain areas of your site. So we can see that we've got a couple of audiences in here, apart from the standard ones of people who have read the blog, or at least landing on the blog, and people who have viewed items in the past 30 days. What we could also do while we're here is create events from audiences. So if we created a new audience, let's say we've got template ones here, so we'll use one of those. So non-purchasers, so people who have been on site and haven't completed an in-app purchase or a website purchase. So we already know that we've got 135 non-purchasers within this audience group. What you can do is obviously add conditions to this if you wanted to. So we might want to look at just mobile, for example. So we look at device category and then contains mobile. So this is anyone that's been on site on a mobile but hasn't purchased anything. So we've got a fairly niche audience that we can start to use once data gathers. What we can do while we're here is create a trigger from this. So by creating a trigger, what it will do, it will send an event to GA4. So it may send an event of, so say non-purchaser mobile. So it's going to send an event when somebody enters this audience. So we can then track that in our event reporting within GA4. So we can break down any report by this event. So anyone that's been on mobile and not purchased will be able to see that as event tracking within GA4. We've also set up an audience, and that took around 2 minutes to do. So really simple to set up audiences that we have, but also events on the back of those audiences to inform on our data and what's happening on site a lot more. If there's any questions on any of these functionalities, obviously please reach out to us and we can try and address those. So that sort of covers event tracking and how GA4 interprets data and things like that. And we want to get into the key reports now, really. So talking around how we build reports out, how we can customize, or how you can customize your property to suit what you want to get from the data, essentially. So if we just go to one of our reports, so we'll take a look at the pages and screens report, which is under the engagement topic. And before we get into customizing these, I just want to talk around, I'll revert back to the bounce rate and why that's gone. So GA4 now focuses on engagement metrics a lot more, which is all around the engagement rate or an engaged session. Now, an engaged session in GA4's eyes is anyone that spends more than 10 seconds on site or completes a conversion action or views 2 or more pages. That counts as an engaged session. So that has replaced your behavioral metrics such as session quality and bounce rate and exit rate, new versus returning, all of those. So engagement rate is sort of a score that we want to keep looking at, and you'll see frequently in all of your reports. But we just want to look at report visuals in here. So you'll notice in all the details reports, you get a couple of cards at the top to show you ordinarily a line chart and a bar chart. And then I just want to show you how to customize these essentially. So you can get the reports that you want to get out of these this data. So we're going to go up and customize this report again. And what I want to do for this particular report is add browser into these dimensions. So if we just go up to dimensions at the top, add a dimension, search for browser. There we go. And apply that. Browser will then pop up in your drop-down menu, so you can then filter by browser. You can also change the default settings for these. So if you wanted browser to be the default option within the report, whenever you go to this report now, browser will be the default option, and then you can break down as you need to or add your secondary dimensions. Same can be done with metrics. And then obviously filters we can add in there as well. We're going to do that while we're here because we're going to be building out some organic reporting. Okay, so we'll look at organic search for this one. And I'm going to apply that as a filter to this report. So we've got an organic pages and screen report with browser added as well. Now the visualizations, obviously we see a line chart and a bar chart. You can change these to however you want to visualize your data. So you might prefer a scatter chart, for example. We can apply that. Or you can remove them entirely, so you can just hide them from the view if you prefer to just have a line chart on there. The other thing you can do is add summary cards within detail reports that you can then use later for an overview report, for snapshot reports with tiles on. There's one already populated within the pages and screens report, but you can create your own based on the dimensions and everything that you've added within this detail report. So if we want to look at browser again, we may want to add another dimension. The metrics, we can take a look at total revenue by browser, average engagement time, and then you can pick your visualization that you want for that. So we'll go for a pie chart in this case. And then your filter, you can either apply a separate filter or you can adopt the filter from the current report. And then we're just going to save that. So that card down here, total revenue by browser, we'll be able to use a bit later on when we come to that. And then we're going to save this as a new report. So I don't want to update the current report that's in the nav. So save as a new report. Call that organic pages and screens with browser. Quite a lengthy name, but I can't think of anything else right now. So we'll save that as a new report. So that report is now saved. Now, if we go back to the property, it won't be in the nav yet. You need to assign that particular report to an area of the nav, into a collection or one of the topics, essentially. So you can do that in your library. So if we come into the library, we'll be able to see that our organic pages screens with browser report is sat within there. And we'll be able to add that into a collection. So as we said, a collection are these large drop downs. You've got your topics and then your reports all sat underneath there. We're going to build one more report while we're here. So we're going to take a copy from the landing page report. So we're going to adjust this one again and create an organic landing page report just to show you how the customization works again. So we've got organic search in there already. Dimension wise, this time we're going to add operating system. And I'm going to create a custom card from that operating system dimension as well. Add a metric of total revenue, perhaps sessions, again with the pie chart, and then apply the current report filter. I'm going to apply that. So that's another card that will then pop up within our reporting. And then I'm going to save this as a new report again. Just have that as organic landing page. Operating system. Save that. Now if we go back to our library, and we can show how we can build out these collections. So we'll get onto reports, head back into the library. We've started building out this departmental dashboard, which obviously breaks down SEO, paid media, CRO, and social. So we're going to go in and edit that collection. Now the SEO one, we want to add those organic reports that we've built out. So we've got first user and events. We want the landing page OS, and it's just a drag and drop within this UI. And we want the pages and screens with browser. Other ones that we want to add in, so CRO. Obviously the detail reports are all of our tables, and then we've got overview reports. So CRO, I think we'll probably examine user behavior. There's an overview report. The rest we've already started building out. And then the social report, we're going to look at raise brand awareness as an overview. If you only add one report within here, it will just create that one report dashboard for you. And then we can save this to current collection. So I'll tell you when it's saved. If you head back to publish it to your nav, you just find the collection that you've built out. Do the three dots, publish, and then that'll pop up within your nav once it loads. When that's published, everyone will be able to see that. So you'll have full access to, all the users within your property will have full access. And we'll just refresh that so it's a bit quicker. And then you've got those reports in there. So the departmental dashboard's in there. You've got all of your breakdowns by department, CRO, paid media, the social. We only put an overview in there, so we click there, and that's just going to give us that dashboard, that overview for social. And you can see that as you start to build all these collections and reports, you can create a bigger picture of all of your reporting across all of your business objectives, whatever they may be. You can see how much more detailed your reporting can get by customizing this nav bar and creating these collections that you need within your account. What we're going to do while here is just show you how to add those cards that we created earlier on. So if we just go to the organic pages and screens report, we built out a card within that for the browser. We can just go to customize, and we've got the card sat in there. So we'll go into the library for the pages and screens report. Edit collection again. Make sure it's there. Pages and screens with browser. Okay. Head into the overview. And then we can edit this to add our card into the overview. So you can add cards once you edit the overview, and then this will show you all of the template cards that come with GA4 anyway. Or you can look at other cards, or you can search for whatever your card is. So if we just look for browser. Spell it right. So revenue by browser. So that's sat in the departmental dashboard collection. So we can click on that and add that card, and then that'll get added within here. And then we can chop and change these if we wanted that particular one a little bit further up. And we can save that, save to current, or save as new again. So we can customize all the overview reports as well. And then the last thing that I want to do while we're in the reporting is just show the comparisons that we can add in. So obviously within the edit comparisons icon again, we can come in here and add a specific comparison. So whether that may be country or whichever dimension that you want to look at. You might want to look at just the United Kingdom. Click OK and apply, and that's going to create a comparison across the entire property. So we've got that comparison in for the UK now, and as you navigate through the different reports, that comparison will stick, and you'll be able to view across all reports that segmentation essentially. And you can obviously add more comparisons if you need to, and whatever you need to do for those comparisons essentially. And from a reporting point of view, that's pretty much it. So like we said, in terms of building out those reports, there are countless and countless reports that you can build out based on the data that you want to see and what you're used to seeing in Universal. They're super simple to set up and publish to your nav and customize that nav. But I'd recommend looking at those events to try and garner what data that you want to get out of those reports, and then that's going to inform how that nav is going to look for you and your team. We're going to go into a little bit of common mistakes and troubleshooting. So I suppose as you're looking at your property and going through this and adding reports and things, you're probably going to come across some data that you might that might not look right. There might be anomalies or something like that. And when that happens, there's a few things that I just recommend that you do first to just check. So have a look at your implementation to begin with. So just double check that your tracking code is installed correctly, and your configurations are set up properly within all of your admin settings. If we look in the admin panel within here, there's a setup assistant which can sort of walk you through some different setups within GA4 to make sure that everything's firing properly. It also gives you some little pointers in here, links to help articles and everything like that to sort of support you in setting that up. The other thing that you can use is the debug mode, which I referenced earlier. So the debug view within the admin panel as well. This is where you can check any new implementations. So as soon as you've deployed anything new on site, you can come here, launch the debug view, go onto site and start clicking around, start trying to fire some events, and then they'll start to pop up within this debug in a timeline. So you'll be able to see what is and what isn't working. I'll also look for patterns in your data generally. So any specific discrepancies in that data, any potential patterns that are highlighting some issues, if there's consistently lower periods that you're not used to, things like that. Try and identify those patterns, and that's going to give you some insight into where to look for, you know, a fix essentially. And then there's always the Google Analytics Help Center as well. So as we said, you know, there's always a learn more article on most things within GA4. You can click through there, and the answers are usually there. And if all else fails, you can obviously just get in touch with us. You know, we're more than happy to support in any implementation fixes or anything like that. So yeah, just reach out. And that covers everything really, what we wanted to go through today. As Marisa said, we'll be following up with some additional video articles and blog articles around, you know, key reports that you can set up. So they'll be more specific to certain verticals, whether that's e-commerce or lead generation or specific business objectives. There are a lot of reports housed within GA4 that you can already access as templates, which I'll just briefly show you within the library. So they have a collection called business objectives, which is named core objectives in ours, but in yours it'll be business objectives. And you can come in and publish that one straight away, and that'll show you different reports for those core objectives. So either looking at user behavior, raising brand awareness, online sales, etc. And these are some key reports that you can use for different business objectives. You can go in there and customize those, manipulate those to, you know, your segments and your comparisons and things like that, and get the reporting view that you need across here. But yeah, we'll be following up with key reports to build out in GA4 for all verticals.